Frontier Experience, or Epistolary Sesquipedalian Lexiphanicism from the Occident, by J.E.L. Seneker. Letter 1. Our Analytic Butte, Occident, November 4th, 1872. Most sophomorical Sir, your Greco-Latin epistolet, or Kabbalistical abracadabra, lies before me, deciphered and ecclesiazed to the best of my linguistic, passographical, and exegetical ability. As a merited castigation, therefore, and to test your wonted longanimity, I shall recalcitrate by funding upon you, in epistolic form, my scaturient cornucopia of lexiphanic sesquipedalities, Johnsonian archaisms, exoticisms, neologianisms, patavinities, et id genus omne. In former epistolary scribblements, I gave you the concatenation of concomitant circumstances initiatory to my transmigration to this remote section of the occidental portions of our Colombian Republican coagination. I have also delineated my periculus, portrayed various incidents of venations in which I participated, by narrating Greecal aggregations of bison and antelope capridae, which abound on the graminious oxiduous plateaus, depicted my primal vision of the elusive phenomenal mirage and the Fata Morgana, and in verity recounted much of my vicissitudinous experience whilst with a caravan traversing the occidental champaigns. I am, however, not oblivious of the fact that when we imparted mutual valedictory congees, I laid myself under obligations to give you a pantographical delineation of the ponent regions upon which I might cast my ophthalmic organs. As it would be a delucid evagation from my customary routinism to comprehendinate the fulfillment of my felicitations by procrastination or dereliction, I shall, deeming this a sufficence, proemily or prolegomenarily, essay to further exonerate myself of said obligations, and imprimis give you a chorographical sketch of this part of our Hesperian domain, and a compendiarious enumeration of some of its autochthonal flora and fauna. The superficies of the occidental portion are diversified by many altitudinarian, terrene, lapidarious, and rupillary acroceronian montanic elevations, some of cyclopean vastidity and sublime scabredity. Their magnificent glacious pinnacles tower, apparently above the nubiferous regions, into the caliginosus empyrean. The oriental portion is a vast, undulating plateau, extremely longitudinal and latitudinous, having few exiguous dingles. Its terreous surface is covered with a most nutritious, autochthonous, xerophilous, gramineous growth, principally Butuloa oligostachya, Buclo and Tripsicum dactyloides, mesquite and grama. This growth sustains equine, bovine, hircine, and ovine quadrupeds in a state of rotund impinguation during the entire hemo season. Artemisia tridentata, the Solosequius helianthus, aculeated cactus opuntia, and multifarious succulent acanthaceous and aciculated cactaceous plantage, and floriferous, herbaceous, and graminifolious garniture luxuriate in many localities. The fluvial meanders are limited and originate from the liquefaction of the vast niveous and glacial accumulations in the montanic regions. None are nidigerous, but they are Cretaceous and Anatiferous. Some are Pactolian and all are extremely relucent and possess a great degree of diaphaneity. None tardy in profluence. At many points, their rivages, especially in the vicinity of the embouchures or disemboguements of arroyos, are replete with a promiscuity of asperfolious, baxiferous, or cocciferous, venaceous, arundinaceous, and other bushments. Myriads of venine, umbelliferous, corymbiferous, racemiferous, urticaceous, fructiferous, anthophorous, or floriferous plantage, and multifarious spontaneous esculent products also abound. The autochthonous arboreous growth consists of Acerrose sempervirent and Perdifolius silva and boskages. By no means of a mean arduity, or totally devoid of adansites, nodosities, and nags, disboscation by succession and conflagrations will deplete same in the next decade. The reptitory, pinigerous, bisulcus, and unguiculated feral entities of this domain are ouzels, ptarmigans, ortolans, leverocs, trockidae, shelducks, cryos, cockobs, creeples, crotoluses, carcajews, logames, castors, marmots, malodorous maripods, Spilageli putorius, Lepus campestris, Ovis montano, Antelope capridae, bison, spermophores, coyotes, grizzlies, ursulus horribilis, and other animals of the murine, sciurine, feline, canine, leporine, vulpine, lupine, ursine, cervine, caprine, ovine, and equine genus. Also, penipotent exhibitrine and aquiline raptors. There are apparently interminable areas almost wholly monopolized by Cynomus ludovicianus. Viewing the ludicrous antics of these illusory sirine burrowing rodents in their circumcussations or perched a la homo upon the apices of their coniform tumulosities incessancy alliterating, one cannot control his risibles. The intermontane sections of this region are as auriferous and argentiferous as any of the austral, remote Austrine occidental, or extreme occidental and septentrional sections of this republican agenation. They are also feriferous, carboniferous, or anthraciferaous, plumbiferous, and cupriferous. The ubity or fecundity of the soil in the paddable sections, when properly stercorated and irrigated, exuberates aeration. Besides frumentarious products, which yield a most siliginous flour, there are produced in campestrian and olatory enclosures branch, citrals, salmontaceous fragaria, cucurbitaceous, acetarius, fabaceous, and in verity multifarious oleraceous edibles. There are vast, arid, alkaligenous areas and arenarious adurations, multitudinous conglomerate buttes, and circumdenudated arenalitic elevations. Such areas, not being scaturiginous and arable, will ever be sparsely populated. The numerary majoration or cressive datation of the terra tenants originates from agistment, coemption, and vendition of equine, bovine, and lanigerous ovine quadrupeds or rotherbeasts, from attention to geoponics or agronomy, from usurarious contracts and usufructuary holdings, from enchantment in value of preempted terra firma, from venations, agiotage, mining, and piratical pursuits or mercature, and from general negotiations. The paucity of population in some localities possesses a consimilitude to a mere exiguity. The life of many is bucolic and nomadic. The Opodan and many volatic communities, the optimity of society prevails. However, the cordial compagination of so heterogeneous a mass and ferruginous concurrence of all nationalities, as is the case in some localities, demands time. There must be a prior detruncation of the truculence and inurbanity of some of its divisions to obtain the optimity of society and secondation. Appetition for occupation, synergetics, electromachy, tauromachy, and circumforaneous evogations must undergo diminution. The comportance of the major portion of the Occidental Leod is by no means truculent, celestic, or immorigerous. Nevertheless, many are subdolous and have a great inhiation for captation, veneration, the coercivation of pelf, preemption and coemption of terra firma, and participating in festal jovialities. The ethics of many are greatly maculated by the rendition and vivacity of aquavitae. Localities replete with cades of aguardiente, papalo, skink, and bub are patrocinated by and thronged with bibbers, whose co-mates, condisciples, and competators are dolts, fanfarons, jobbernows, answerous nincompoops, maudlin gavilanses, temulant one-wits, linguacious barachios, and baleful baraters. They sometimes initiate their Saturnalian revelries with xerophagi, and the mendication of ragu, saveloy, and polony, to give an acumen to their gusto for the imbibition of inebriating potations. As a sequence, what stolid eloquence! What random temptations at the inundation of some vulgar enigma! What perpetuation and ruinous ebriety! What mutual pugnacity issuing in testy consultations and sanguinary pugilisms! Such rendezvous are terrestrial pandemoniums. Relative to myself, as you are cognizant, for some time subsequent to my decession from home, I sojourned with Agnatians and Cognations, who are amnicalists and engaged in terriculture or agriculation. The circumambient and circumjacent country is interamnian, nemorous, and paludal or palustral. My vocation was at first subtaculaneous and sedentary, but subsequently became wholly extraforaneous. Prior to becoming inured to a castrensial mode of life, I very injudiciously submitted to homicubations during pernoctations, which, during the initial part of my castromatations and al fresco employment, in connection with nocturnal irrorations, miasmatic exhalations, and the dankishness of the atmosphere generated by a want of apricity, were extremely febrefacient, causing tertiary quassation and febriculosity. Infrigidation, formication, cardiology, allotriophagy, and womble, succeeded by calenture, found introgression into my corporeal organization. I was medicamentally aggravated by a rubiginous, charlatanical, anencephalous medicaster, who, not being extrascient in ecology, iomatology, soteriology, pharmacodynamics, and in the impartation of ecritics, ekphrastics, and other pharmacons, and moreover, having erroneously diagnosticated my case, greatly minorated my eupepsy and occasioned me to spend many insomnious nights. In my brief swevens, I endured circumvallation of pigwidgeons, cacodemons, and audible simulacres in my hands. Upon these supervenes synorexia, leucophlegmacy, turgid mons, and synchronism. I am now robust physically and sane mentally, or mens sana in corpore sano, with the exception of a slight odontalgia and cephalalgia, but not the slightest symptom of nostalgia. Eulogium to the supermundane powers for the revivification of my physical organization, and for my invalescence and complete analepsis by means of pyretics, cholagogics, peptics, anticorzotics, and other medicamenta. Also, balneotherapy, kinesiopathy or kinesiatrics, and migration to this salubrious clime. Since my ubication here, my functions have been bibliopolistical, bucolical, agronomical, paideutical or pedagogical, and negotiatory. I have perorated the polent regions quite extensively, and have witnessed many peregrinities and neoteric occurrences. I will now terminate this protracted autoschediastical scribblement by imparting to you the verity that as yet femininity has not parlously fascinated me, though I am not by any means a misogynist or misogamist, affected with neither gyneolatry or gynophobia, though somewhat of a philogynist. Desiderating not to be jived with connubial relations, I have come to the elation to be the sola vagant, yet many annuary epochs. I shall offer no exculpation for hieroglyphical chirography, autoschediastical orthology, cacography, and cacology, but leaving it to you to decipher, etymologize, and eclaircise to the best of your lexicographical, lexicological, arismological, and philological ability. I am, most lexiphanically, your quondam condisciple, Ivan.